So guys, welcome to Full Studio. You're now looking at the entirety of Timeless Over Me 2 featuring Sky Roses, out now as part of Rushdown 100. And the story of how this came to be is a pretty complicated one, very agitated, and this is because this song wasn't originally supposed to be Over Me 2 at all, and Cyriel wasn't supposed to raid until he did. In fact, the first version of this whip, and where some of the sounds in the drop come from, dates back all the way to mid-2018, even before the first Over Me happened. In fact, Cyriel with the resub, thank you so much, man! Let's go! You guys won't let me talk! So anyway, the synthesized vocals that I made here were eventually the inspiration for that first Over Me in 2019. So it's kind of like the sequel inspired the original before it was even a sequel. The story is that I got contacted by an artist who shall remain nameless, and he had a bunch of contacts and was well known in his genre, and he apparently saw my SoundCloud, he liked some of the tracks in there, and he said, hey, would you like to do a collab? And then he added, if this goes through, I bet I can get you on a very big label, which I know what that label is, but it shall also remain nameless because that doesn't matter right now, and they had nothing to do with this. Alright, so we started the collab, or rather, I started the collab, and I ended up making about a minute and a half worth of music. In fact, I managed to find an MP3 render of the whip, so I'm gonna play this to you now, and I bet you'll be able to see the similarities straight away. So this is from 2018 that you're about to listen to, and see if it rings a bell. Alright, so as you can see, the drop was originally the intro, and the rest ended up just getting scrapped. But the soul, the core essence of the track is mostly there, actually. So, I sent this guy the stems, and I didn't hear back for a while. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and by month 8, I got back and said, hey, is this still going? To which, guess what? I got no reply. So this guy, who is fairly well known in his field, had effectively walked out of me because he started to get bigger deals and he started to go places, and apparently I was no longer good enough for him. And hey, just a simple, hey, I don't want to work on this anymore, would have done the trick. Like, I would have understood. The problem here is that he said nothing. So how am I supposed to know you no longer want to work on this? So he left me with a bunch of work that I now had to flush down the toilet. And that actually, it changed my view on collabs, and it's why nowadays I tend to only work with people that I really trust. But 3 years later, in 2021, I said it was time to revive this, and so I did. And you actually saw me work on this tune live a couple times last year, and then to really help elevate the track a little bit more, I enlisted the help of Jason, who you might know as Sky Roses, which at that point had already done voiceover work for me in the form of the Countdown ARG2, and my song Superluminal. But this was his first singing feature in a song of mine. Needless to say, he absolutely murdered this, and I'm just super happy that it's finally out and that I got to release it in Rushdown 100 of all places. Impeccable timing from you guys who were at Rushdown. Super proud of how far you've come as a label, and Yeah, super stoked. Anyway, enough of me rambling. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. This is actually one of the few songs where I had enough mixer tracks left at the end to integrate all three parts of the process: the production, the mixing, and the mastering, all in a single project. So let's start from the beginning. The vocals are off for the moment because I'll get to these at the end. Yeah. So the intro. You've got this nice ambient-esque piano section. All right, so there are actually three pianos in here. One is the strongest piano, that's for the lead melody. So very strong, hitting the keys, you know. Then there's a middle intensity piano. Which I believe this is also addictive keys. It is. So it has some bass and some chords. And then there's the softest piano, which this is actually another addictive keys, but just on a way softer preset. So there's three separate versions, three separate intensities of the piano, and these two are actually playing at the same time. So you get the softest sound and a tiny bit more intensity as well. And then the soft one has some more notes as well. See that? And then this does the lead. Then this one has a crystallizer in here. So for those like ambient bits. See that? That's when it really comes into play. So those are the three piano instances, and then there's just the D-pad for the lower bass. So this is just a detuned respad. Let me see if I can get to that. Come on, Serum. There it is. D-pad, low pass, a bit of detune and some compression to help make it a little bit more uniform. And yeah. We get to the later parts of this. Yeah, but no vocals, please. Not yet. So then we get to the melody. Dun, 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 right? So we have the same melody from the beginning. Dun, 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 dun. And then we have a slight variation of that. And then we have one more voicing here. Dun, 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 right? And another voicing here. Right? So if in the first phrase we had dun, dun, so A, E. Now we have G and E. Dun, dun. And that will allow us to go to a C major chord. Back to the root key. So C major and A minor are basically relatives. So I can switch between them rather effortlessly. So C major and then right to A minor. Dun, dun. And then I wanted to get to go from here to there, and I just thought, okay, let's just do a passing note, so a chromaticism, if you will. We get that nice diminished anime sad chord, sad anime chord. And we even have that major, yeah, we even have that major seventh in there. So we have the dun. So that's basically the chord that we're playing there. And then there's two voices here. Dun 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 dun. And then there's this dun 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 dun, which is going to tease the theme of the build-up. So beam me up. Right? CPU go brrr. And then there's just some boom reversed here. Right? This is from Hypernova, by the way. This is Deep Impact. FX Deep Impact from Hypernova. And then we get onto the build-up. So without the vocals, this part is rather uneventful, because the entirety of the melody is in the vocals. This is just instrumental. So this is just like backing instruments. So we have saws which are actually stems from the original. These saws, they're stems from the original, but they've just been gated. So I've got a gate in here. Without the gate, they would sound like this. I did resample them around. Right? And then, well, I just gated it. And then I copy this exact thing, but just one octave higher. So they've just been repitched one octave higher. Then there's a super verve pad in here. So it's just the same sample, but repeated multiple times. And then I believe this is a cyberpunk plug from Hypernova as well. Yeah. And this has some delay in it. Well, just EQing for making some space, making sure that they have their specific spot in the mix. And then they get stronger and stronger as the buildup goes up. Some backing arps as well. These are also from Hypernova, I think. And they just appear here and there. Then there's a siren, goes up. And the bass starts out being a sample. Oh, nice. Blitz hyperverb. And I just repitched it around to match the key that I wanted. And then I just switched to the deep pad for the more for when the perk comes in. When the percussion comes in, that's when I switch to the deep pad for mixing purposes, making sure that the bass isn't like too much all over the place. Right, and then we just have the pew and a reverse sub that's gonna act as a vroom, as a reverse punch into the kick. Vroom, right? So we get to the first drop. Yes, the bouncing bass is back, brother. And if you've ever wondered what the bouncing bass actually is, well, it's just a rather deformed square. I believe this is Cymatic's wavetable. I don't even know. It's called B-Sod Square. And I basically took this, I detuned it a tiny bit, made the envelope really short so it got that, it has that like a plug sound to it, right? And then it also has a slight automation on the filter. So see how it starts a little bit more open and then it goes down as the sound plays, and then just some effects, hyper, distortion, compressor, and reverb. For that like sense of space. Without the reverb, I believe yeah, so this is the actual reverb. There it is. This is what makes like half of the sound. So it's just, you put the sound in a room and hey, suddenly it sounds completely different. Even if the reverb is like super short, it's like just 0.1 seconds. And by the way, sharks! with the resub. Actually gifted by Generic Pixel. How generous of you. Sharks, enjoy your free pass into my subscriber club, where you can now steal ideas from me in my Discord server. Anyway, so I basically just took this. So it's basically just an offbeat loop. Dun 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 dun. So every like three notes. It's a very similar rhythm to the one in Willpower, where the bouncing bass was first introduced. And then I added a fifth on top, so we've got the bass and then the... And then I added a second layer to this, which is basically the same, but a little bit more opened up and with a slightly more like saw-like oscillator-like waveform to it, onto it. And so it sounded like this. Yeah, but with the pattern only, thank you. And with no reverb, thank you. So what I basically did is these two start out being just the same timing, and then this one detaches from the first, and then this one is gonna be like just one beat off of the bass. Bum 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 ba bum ba bum bum ba bum ba bum. That's the rhythm, right? And then just this it kind of turns out to be a melody of its own. Right? And then the processing on the bouncing bass itself is the reverb, as I show you, and then there's some light saturation, some EQing, some more EQing, some stereo expansion to make it feel a tad bit wider, a pretty filtered, so in case we need to do a cutoff automation, like say in a build-up. And then there's an OTT. By the way, the OTT interface got revamped. OTT got updated, bro. We ballin'. And then there's a soft clip. Because with the reverb and the stereo expansion, well, wow, there's like two things that showed up there at the same time, and the fluke graphic got pretty screwed. So yeah, the limiter at the end is just to keep things at a certain level, so not make them go too far above the red. So yeah, we could pretty much recreate this in the flute. And with a honk of the automaton. All right, that was gonna be a little bit more difficult. But does this thing still have batteries? Yes. I'm kind of getting the hang of it. I'm kind of starting to get the hang of it, of the automaton now, huh? And then for the second layer to it, I can't speak. Over me booty, Skybreak, welcome to Modus Live. Then for this, it's just a Pro R, another EQ, and then a Vitalizer, which with the stereo expander a fair bit up. This adds a very like analog, very like warm type of like stereo expansion, so that it did sound pretty cool. So the whole thing sounds pretty wet, sounds pretty wide, and the reason why it sounds wide is because I need to make room in the middle for the vocals, right? So yeah, some saws, the same saws from the build-up. Actually, I just did pretty much a copy paste there. Skybreak, by the way, thank you so much for the resub, courtesy of another gift from Generic Pixel. Let's go. So yeah. these saws in some way they share the same melody as here. Dun, dun, right? And then the same pad from the build-up again, pretty much a copy-paste there. And then I do have some more ARPs. Again, same ARPs here. So basically, they're all like, this is here, this is here, this is here, and this is here. Same track. And then there's a bouncing sub with a deep pad layer up top that is actually sustained. And another sub, another gift sub to Focal Flare. Stop! You're gonna get another credit card timeout. Your bank account is gonna think you're sus. So this has its sub high passed. So the sub actually has room to punch below the D-pad. And then as for the percussion, it's basically, well, just kick, snare. This is a combination of a rim shot from Hypernova and a layer of 2 cymatic snares, I believe. So there's that, and then there's this. And they're slightly offset each to make for that like slight, right? For that like flam snare thing. And then there's just a bunch of hat loops, re-chopped and like resampled around to get exactly the pattern that I wanted. And then some rides and some more. Oh, there's some shakers here. I forgot about this. And then there's some rides in here. But like the more open. So we've got all the closed hats and then the open hats here. All very dry, just very rhythmic, right? So I believe that's it for the first drop, right? So let's play it in full. Instrumental. No vocals. We'll get to the vocals at the end. As you can see, the drop itself without the vocals, it's not actually that full. It's not that eventful. It actually sounds pretty empty. It's the vocals that really take it to the next level. And yes, it does get pretty lively here, but there's still that extra level of spicy that you can reach with the vocals here. We get onto the breakdown. So basically, this song follows the same structure. Thanks so much for the pet, by the way, Sharks. As the first Over Me. So there's like a very like chill. There's a bouncing bass drop, right? This was also in the first Over Me. Shout out to Phil May Bum. You won't get me on that, Caval. All right. there's so many big people here, by the way. Welcome, Rushdown people. How you guys doing? So yeah, the first Over Me, what it had is a bouncing bass drop followed by a jazzy breakdown and then a big chungus melodic dubstep drop. Well, this is pretty much the same thing because it's a spiritual successor to Over Me. It shares the same structure, but that's about where the similarities end. The composition, the melodies, the motif, and most importantly, the vocals are pretty different, but they share the same essence, the same soul, the what makes Over Me, right? Anyway, piano solo. I just had these chords first. So I'm gonna turn off the melody first, right? I'm gonna go here. I basically just had F major and then A minor, so basically 6 to 1, 6, 1, and then I had to go from here to there. Shout out to Mike Rocked. Right, so I had to go from there to there, and I said, well, okay, let's just take this and one semitone down, and that's how this chord came to be. Right? And then we had an F sharp, the super dominant. So once again, the sharp super dominant which you will have seen in Superluminal that I like quite a lot. The sharp super dominant. Right there. And we jump back down from the sharp super dominant to the regular super dominant. So we go from the we are gonna go from here into the relative major of the key that we're in. That's A minor, so that's C major. But then I thought, well, to spice it up a little bit, let's add one chord before that. That's basically that, but semitone up. So for the jazzy, right? And even then, we go back, dan, 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 right? Then one more chord up, that is D. And then the melody, I just had this, and I said, okay, where do I want to go with that? And so I made up the chords, and then I just fit the melody in the middle. So chord, melody, right? So it's like a call and response. Call, response, right? Right? So I basically just did this, and one octave higher. Right? Give the chord some breathing room. And then it's basically just the same melody, but with an added layer. That's like a synth layer. What was that shout out on beat? Was it? I'm gonna have to rewatch the VOD after this. By the way, guys, if you are missing out on this live, do not worry. We are re-uploading the entire breakdown full uncut to YouTube. So say hi to YouTube now in chat. This is an almost lick, and the reason why I say that is because, well, but the last two notes, the dun dun is they're not there, right? So they're just not there. I left it incomplete, and so I was able to end on a C major with a major seventh. Dun 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 dun. So that's that's the chord. And then I just have bass guitar. Do the bass and Caval tunes, by the way. Another resub courtesy of Generic Pixel. Man, they are on an absolute roll tonight. Wow, this is turning out to be pretty intense. This is pretty intense right now, y'all. So we've got this bass in here. Let's see if we can make it louder. There it is. Girth. Modo bass. Or as you guys like to say, modus bass. It basically just has an EQ. Get rid of some of the mids. Boost the highs to get the the sound from the strings. That. They turn modus into a bass guitar. Shout out to Generic Pixel. And then there's a sub. And then we have both the very stable digital bass combined with the real bass guitar. And even then, the bass has some lines, some notes that the sub bass doesn't have. Shout out to. And then there's a solo line for the bass there. So it's the same thing, just twice, and then it keeps going up. So bam, 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 right? With some additions in here, flourishes and all that kind of stuff. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Where's the peck of pickled peppers? Peter Piper. Oh, almost. Peter Piper picked. God damn it! Almost had it. And I'm not a native speaker. Watch out. I'm coming for your language, English normies. Anyway, so the perk is interesting. We've got a real instance of a real drum kit. We've got a studio drummer here. Let's take a look. Will contact open? Will contact open, or will it just crash on me? Come on. Yeah, FL Studio not responding, bro. Yeah, we got it. It's done. It's gone. Oh, it's the new Windows install, y'all. I'm telling you. Look, I haven't opened this project in like a solid 8 months, so if this kind of stuff happens, honestly, I don't blame my PC. All right, we're alive. It's alive. So we've got some rides and some close hats. And then further down the line, we've got some more interesting stuff. Aha, it's a crash now. And then there's a whole tom fill here. I think I actually exported this and I turned it into a Hypernova fill. Right, so yeah. With the crashes in there. AU5 symbol crash huge dot wave. Gunga ginga gunga ginga gunga ginga gunga ginga gunga ginga. Yeah, it gets bad. It gets bad quickly. Tom fill. I have no idea why there's a tom fill in the snare track, but 2021 me, I guess. I was just getting used to this new style of organizing my projects. And actually now the kick is in the studio drummer now, for that like fully acoustic feel to it. So there it is. And these are some clap sounds. Right. And the obligatory offbeat toms. Bum 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 bum. With that silence at the last beat for that Pride of snare. There it is. And then this is the second build-up. So first there's a kick roll and then there's a snare roll. Right? And well, let's touch on this. So basically, these are some saw plugs. I believe these are made in Serum. Yeah. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going to be, I'm automating the cutoff in these and the release time so that they get, the decay time gets longer and longer as you reach the end of the phase, right? Of the phrase. And then it goes back down. So then 2 of the same chords. So these are just F major each. It's the piano that makes the melody here. Dun 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 dun. Right. And there it is. And then it eventually all grounds to a halt, to a pause for the pre-drop in the vocals. That's going to eventually lead to the second drop. Nothing. And then in the drums bus, impact and a tom fill, followed by the zap and the right. All right, so we move on to the second drop. This is pretty interesting. Nice one, Pat. Okay, so let's see what's happening here. As for the melody itself, it's the exact same melody as in the intro. Dun, 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 right? Now I just had to do it in drop form. And I thought, well, okay, if I just were to do the same notes in the intro, so if I just were to do dun, 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 it would be kind of boring. So what I thought was just I will arpify them, and I took one more note from the chord, dun dun dun. So because this is E minor, and I took the 3rd and the 5th. So there it is, dun dun dun. And then I just went and I did the same for every single chord, and if it was minor or major, then I would bring the 5th, right, one semitone up or down, and that way it's so much more interesting. Dun 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 dun, but the base of the melody is the same. Dun 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 dun, but now it has like a more of an RP nature to it. So what we're looking at here is we've got the main lead, which is a serum patch, which is a bit of a mix between a square wave and a saw. And then I'm doing 2 voices in here. So we've got this, and then this. The lower one is a slightly lower velocity, so intensity or volume. And that way we get a little bit less of the lower voicing, and we give it a different sound or timbre, if you will. And this is completely dry. There's no reverb happening here. We do have a disperser. This is back when I used the actual disperser instead of all pass phase, which is like all I use now, because it's just it's free and it's objectively better. So we've got the disperser, the chorus, and then there's an EQ for high pass, mixing purposes, and then just a filter in case we need it. And then we've got the saws. So basically it's just chords, and they have been re-chopped so they match the rhythm, dun 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 dun, of the melody. So they're like fully in sync. And they also kind of follow the same like chorded, like arped chords rhythm. Dun 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 dun, right? And then we've got an AU5 trans saw sample. Yeah, there it is. I shortened it, yeah. And then I made it the base layer for the saws. Right? And then with it all together. But that's not all there is to this. There are way more layers. So for one, there's a super verb in here. And then there's a hyperverb layer in here. So to give it a bit more like a more vocal and like atmospheric feel to it, as opposed to like just digital supersaws. Yeah, this just sounds like a slightly more vocal pad. Makes it sound a little bit more natural. And then this is just another synth pad. I believe this is ripped off of Bejeweled Twist. I did gate it though, so there's that. And then there's a razor. It's actually 2 layers. This is the Psytrance plug from the second drop of Prism. So let's play that. So I took the Psytrance plug that I made for the second drop of our collab, my collab with Sharks, Prism, and I reused it here as a layer, right? And then I have the actual razor itself, right? But let's look. And then the razor, I actually have it jump octaves. Dun 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 dun. And then we have that like bass break in there. Dun 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 dun. So, and with the bass and everything. Easy with the posture check, all right? You win. Congratulations. And with it all, it sounds like that. It's just huge wall of sound. And then there's this break, which is the morphed melodic bass from Val's Galactica. Yes, I used Val's Galactica samples in here for some reason. And then a dispersause. This is also from Hyperverb, from Hypernova, sorry. Some more ARPs, also from Hypernova. And this is a chopped vocal from Kara. So there it is. And then obviously with the bass. And these are all being sidechained here with some automations to make it all like, oh yeah. And then there's this break, which is just like two big reeses and then a blob effect. This is from Hypernova too, I believe. It's just that with a little bit of reverb, and then the reverb cuts out with the automation here. And then there's reverb sub into the kick. All right, and that gives way to the second part, which is the same thing, except that now we add the piano into the mix. Here. Play it like this. There it is. So now we add the piano into the mix, and we actually have it do chords. So and then the piano and the lead all do like faster arps in here for like some variation. And then I have this higher notes in there. Right. And as for this, it's all the same sort of layers. And then here is also the same now that the vocal is a different pitch. And now. And then what I did here was basically I took this last part of the build-up and I copied and pasted it here. Because it did the job. So why not? So now there's the exact same thing, but now the lead is not there anymore because the lead is going to become a vocal chop. And now I have to make room for that. So the synthesized lead has to go. But now it even comes back again here. And then it has some more variations. And then the basses do like an octave switcheroo here. So the first version was this. And then now the new version is like that. So just go an octave higher. So again, it's all the little things, the little details that you change that really add that variation without taking without removing the core, the essence of the song. And then the big moment, what everybody probably remembers out of the song. Dun, 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 dun. So basically what I'm doing here is dun 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 dun. So that is the chord melody line. But with the arpify like stuff, it sounds like that. And then dun 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 dun, right? So this is F major and then C major. All right, so you guys like mentioned in the comments, oh, where did I hear this? Where have I heard this before? And well, in case some of you didn't know, yes, this was Haywire inspired. So I switched to 3/4 for like 4 bars here for this break. So 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1, right? And then back into 4/4 for this. And the result is like down, bam, 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 right? So it feels 1 2 1 2 1 2. That is the feel, but on a technical level, it's 3/4. It's 1 2 3. So like this, right? And then the chords, they basically do D, F, A sharp, or B flat, and then A flat, and then G. So basically, in bass form, this is the B flat major chord. Dun, 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 dun. And then if I want to go from here to there, I'll just do a minor second. Right? And then, well, I just had to harmonize that, and it was done. So without the lead, there's a second lead here, yeah. And then I was able to keep most of the notes were the same throughout all 4 of these chords. So basically we have the G here, it stays the same for like 3 chords, and then only at the end do we change that. The C and the D here are the same in these 2. The C is also shared by like those 3 chords. So it's like the chords are very different, but they share a lot of notes. So I want to take advantage of the fact that they share a lot of notes. Dun. So effectively what you hear is dun 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 dun. That's it. Then we do have some lead there. Bam, 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 bam. I can't go that high. With some glides, of course. And then I obviously had to filter that out. I had to low pass it as the outro went. Yeah, it's all being filtered and reverbed out. And then as this is being filtered out, this is being filtered in, this like last melody here, which is a reprise of this, of the da na 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 na. So let's have a look. Now I have that, but in like G major form. And this is coming in as this is fading out. So this is fading out, and then this is coming in. You see it coming in. And then I pass the baton from this like Dune synth to the piano. So I have that like arped melody in there, da na 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 na, and then for the E flat major here, I switched it up like just one tone higher, and I did dun dun, and then there's that top voice in there, dun 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 dun. And then the tempo actually slows down, see it there. And once it gets really slow, there's a big silence there, and then just the major G chord to end it all. Okay, and that was my side of things. Now let's tackle Jason's vocals. So when I got these vocals, they sounded, well, dry and unprocessed, because that's what you receive when you work with a vocalist. You receive dry, unprocessed samples, and then you have to integrate it into the mix that you get. So when I got these harmonies, this one for example, right? So we basically got the same harmony but 2 octaves. So I've got this. This is the original sound, and then I made this like artificial layer, which is the same but just an octave up. Here. The original sounds like this. Right, and then I wanted to add like all those like reverb and like delay effects for the intro. Same thing here. You can probably see the vocal chain is what takes up most of the CPU. This has also happened with some vocal tracks recently that I've been working on. They have this exact same problem. The vocal chain is the most CPU intensive part of it all. So that top octave is not really that loud. It just adds that like tiny more bit of like harmony to it. Then so we have the harmonies and then the actual like lead. So I had to retune this a tiny bit, but just to improve upon his performance, not really to fix anything, but just to improve upon it.
These dreams are a melody that you and I are.
So when you receive this, what you get is this. Yeah, but we have an additional delay here. All right. So what you get is this.
These dreams are a melody that you and I.
So to integrate it into the mix, we've got a compressor. So very, very slight. So very, very relaxed release time. That's to not make it like too compressed. We don't want to OTT these vocals. We just need to control more or less the peaks. So that's why we have a very lenient compressor. Then we have a delay here to give it some more space. A free balance. This just allows me to control the volume in certain parts. So say I need to bring up the volume during the build-up or down during a breakdown, or when there's just harmonies in the outro, for example, I might want to bring it down. Then there's a de-esser. So whenever there is a very strong S, see there are some times where the S's are too strong, right?
And rise, and we'll wade through the sea.
See there? In C, for example, it brought down there. So for just those tiny instances. And then there's another reverb that's ready to begin whenever it's needed. So right now it's not doing anything, but it will be able, it will be doing stuff once it's automated in, once I actually need it. And then there's actually a lot more to this. So there's an EQ. There's a chorus to expand a tiny bit. See how the mix volume isn't actually that loud. It's just at 28. We'll learn. And then we've got an OTT. We'll learn. But very, very slight. So it's like 43% and like no upward. So it's basically as if you were to leave the upwards like where it is at 100, the depth would be like the equivalent would be like having the depth of like 2015, right? But by having the upwards knob all the way down, we make sure that it's only going to compress down. It's not going to bring anything that might be too quiet back up. We don't want that. And then we have a twin tube for a little bit of saturation. Some delay. Some more delay, actually. Total reverb. Now this reverb is acting and is giving us some space, some room. And some soothe to tame the high in frequency. So see here. See like all these tiny bits. It's like where it sounds a little bit too metallic. We don't need that. So we'll just take it out. And then another EQ to tame the highs a little bit more. And a Pro Q, I assume this is for the Fs, probably. So you could say this is a de-effer. You've got the de-esser. You've heard about de-essers, now get ready for the de-effer. But yeah, the Fs usually stand, they're usually like around 10K if they are like very harsh, which Jason's Fs are. And so I just put a dynamic EQ there to make sure that if there was an F, that it wasn't as harsh on the ear. And we've got some harmonies here. And we'll wade through the sea. So we've got a double of the original. And we'll wade through the sea. And then the same as the lead, but just one octave higher. This I retuned myself, so yeah. This isn't actually sung by him. That'll be pretty unreal from him. Do that. This would be pretty insane if he was able to sing that. And then we get into the bulk of the thing. So we've got the lead, a high octave layer, and then a low octave layer. So we have 3 layers effectively, which makes for a really big, really thick sound, right? So we can write whatever we want now because Paul never looks in the chat. We're doing breakdowns. I know, but I need to focus on actually giving you the content that you deserve. So it's like if I were to look at chat, I'm not actually doing my job. I'm just wasting my time. So I'll have more than enough time to look at the chat when the time comes for feedback. So there, I'll be able to read through tons of chat. So I asked Jason to basically reprise the same vocals that were on the first drop. So before I reached out to Jason, the only vocals that I had were this. I synthesized these myself with a TTS, and then I painstakingly repitched every single syllable and like letter, so it would actually sing instead of talk, right? And then, well, there's a ton of processing going on there, but still. And then I just asked Jason to basically sing the same thing, but in like real human voice. Yes, they're TTS. Break off the time. Oh, can you feel it? I made them. Oh, can you feel it? And then we came up with a new set of lines with the same rhythm. So instead of so beam me up, I'm loving nobody. Now it's like don't let you down. Don't let you down. Away from your body. Away from your body. So it's basically a set of lyrics to change up what they're saying, but keeping the same rhythm, and then just that for the build up, right? I can't sing for the life of me. I'm too high pitched for that. my voice is not singer ready. And then what I did here is I took the same vocals and I chopped them around and I brought them down an octave. And then we come back to Jason. And though I've been trying to feel some emotion and look for a sign, even if we can't feel it, right? So it basically goes off of what we had already here, and it continues again with a different set of lines. And then I added a higher octave layer as well. This is basically the same as Jason, but one octave up. It might sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks, but we don't care because the core of the vocal is this. All we need this to do is to add slightly higher harmony, so we don't care how the formants actually sound, because the main formants are gonna come from here, not here. So I still believe, and I know we can feel it. And yeah, you can feel it, but we had no time to love you. But I had no time to love you. Yeah, I had no time for you. And then here, what I did is I took this and I ran it through a radio like EQ, so it's basically turns it into like low quality phone like stuff. But I had no time. And then I did some harmonies with morph. Let's see if I can fetch the morph in here. Here it is. No time to love you. Yeah, I had no time for you. Right. And I believe that's it for the vocals. So this is just like solo. And then we come back to So Beam Me Up. But now we have another call and response between the actual lead and just a morphed like harmony version of that. So beam me up, on loving nobody, break off the time. Oh, can you feel it? And this just harmonies going up. It doesn't matter if they sound kind of janky here. because they're gonna be sidechained anyway, and they're gonna be just drowned by a whole lot of instruments at the same time, so you don't need them to sound extra precise. All you need is the harmonies here.
No time to love you.
And then I made this chop. By the way, this chop is gonna go on Ultranova, so stay tuned for that. And then I did the chopperino on Jason himself on the drop. And the ending. I may not be able to love you, but I still want you to stay, right?
Able to love you, but I still want you to stay.
So we have both the lead, the octaved version, a real harmony with the morph.
Love you, but I still want you to stay. Love you, but I still want you to stay. Love you, but I still want you to stay.
And then some ad-libs at the end. Dun 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 dun. So we are reprising the same melody from the piano here, just for the sake of consistency. Yeah, CPU go brrr. All right, and that's it for the production side of things. Who wants to move on to the Mixdown? All right, so the hard part is done. Now we get on to the fun part. We get to mixing, and hey, yes, I just did that. It's called arrangements. You can have more than one playlist in the same project. Aha! You can have the mixing, mastering, and the production all in one place. Ha! How cool is that? Anyway, you arrive at this. You export everything into stems, and then it's time to do some very general tweaks before mastering. So what I did here in the stems basically is there's some volume automations going on. There's an endless smile for like some reverb effects in the buildup. For example, I'm also doing the stereo separation here. So I'm making things mono in the buildup. And then they expand back when the drop comes. And then I did do some chops, like to solve some issues with the sidechain. Let's see. Yeah, see that? See how there's like a little DC offset and like a click there? So we don't need that. That just goes away. And some more tweaks in the vocals, I believe. And then what I did is I did a soothe. I inserted an instance of soothe. Let's see if I can find it. Morph ending, full instrumental mix, zap, soothe. I think it's here. All right. So what I basically did is I inserted a soothe, and then on the sidechain input, I set it to the vocal bus. And what this is going to be doing, it's going to carve out the frequencies of the vocals into the instrumental. So I'm going to make some room. So the exact frequency spectrum of the vocals it's going to be carved out from the instrumental to make room. It's basically like using track spacer.
So beat me up. I'm loving nobody.
See how? This is basically the frequencies of the vocals are getting carved out, see? And this is a very cool mixing trick to make room for vocals in a mix without necessarily having to boost the volume. See that? So anyway, once you've got everything more or less laid out, I did do some like small tweaks, maybe in a general EQ to the instruments bus, the soothe, as I mentioned. Maybe in the drums, I did some glue compression, yeah. And then on the snare, another glue and an EQ to get rid of maybe some low rumble that was in the snare stem for some reason. And then on the hats bus, I also did a slight high-end tame and a Pro C. See that to compress some of the peaks in there. And then the crash, I believe I did pretty much nothing. Yeah, it's just an EQ to get rid of some of like hitziness in the 3Ks. And that's basically it for the mixing part. It's just some like cuts and editing stuff and like very broad adjustments. And then for the even broader adjustments, we move on to the onto the mastering stage. So we've exported a full pre-master. That's the full track now. But see how it's still got some imperfections, some quirks to be ironed out. And basically what we need is to enhance that and to fix these issues and to really get the overall flow of the track going. So what I mean by that is, see how here in the buildup, the buildup is actually louder than the drop. We have to fix that, right? And so basically what I did is just decrease the volume in the buildup, increase it in the drop. And I'm gonna turn on all the effects chain in the master now. So this might take some CPU away. Let's see. Oh yeah, bumped up quite a bit. So basically what's happening in the mastering stage is another instance of endless smile, I believe, for like some more things that I might have missed. Then there's an imager to like mono out the lows. Let's see. Making sure the lows are just nice and centered, and making sure that on the rest of the spectrum, we are not going too much out of phase. So see how it might be going red in some very specific places, but it mostly stays in the white. It mostly all stays in phase. Now, this is starting to sound more like the final version, right? Then we've got another EQ, a very broad, very gentle high boost, and then some dips in the 500s for like less like boxy sound, for a less nasally boxy sound. Then I believe a Pro MB to balance out, to compress the lows and some of the mids. Another glue to catch these peaks. So these peaks were caught. I fixed that with a glue compressor. I made sure that the threshold was set exactly to the level at which only these peaks would be detected. Then there's a dynamics, which again, more compression on just overall. So see how it's to keep everything mostly under control, right? So the bass doesn't go too loud and it might distort then later on in the limiter. Just to keep everything mostly under control. But then the last step is to actually do the maximizer. So I have a bunch of oversampling, so we make sure that there's like no aliasing noises, and if there are, that they're not in the audible spectrum. And then we just do a slight bit less of output gain, so we make sure that we don't clip in the analog domain, which even then, after that, I still applied a Pro L. No maximization here, only true peak limiting, which this does not have. So yeah, I just did this to make sure, absolutely sure, in like true peak wise, in the analog domain, it would not clip. So it's at minus 0.1 there. And then last step would be to measure it with Julian loudness meter. Let's have a look, see how that sounds. Right, so this, since there isn't much going on, well, this measures at like -8, -9, but then if we get to the second drop, for example, where there's a lot more going on, and it's all much more like wall of sound. See how we're getting dangerously close, like -3. So we're averaging like -5, -4. And then the final result is basically just you end up with a sausage looking thing. And this is the final result of having exported it with all these effects. So you basically got the same waveform, but it's just a lot more sausagey. And because of the true peak, it's not actually hitting zero. It's not hitting the absolute ceiling. It's like capping off at just before zero, right? And you get like a more analog look to the waveform as opposed to just full square, right? And I believe that covers everything for Over Me Too. If there are any questions, shoot now or miss out forever. Let's play some more like waiting music. After we celebrate Skunky Chan's Prime sub. Thank you so much. Welcome to Modus Live, man. Or women. Alright. What's better? Multiband dynamics before multiband imaging or after? Or does it not matter? I would say... Shut up, soundboard. I would say it doesn't matter as long as you keep the crossover frequencies the same. So see how here in Imager, the crossovers are 130, 1K, and 6K. And then in the dynamics part, it's also 130, 1K, and 6K. The reason for this is phasing. If you can have phasing in only 3 spots as opposed to 6, if you were to move these around, now you have phasing in 6 different spots, right? But if you go back down to 6K and 1K here, and then 130 here, which is where all you are going to be sharing all of the crossover frequencies. And if there's any phasing, which it's kind of rare that any phasing affects the sound at this stage, even if, so just to be absolutely sure, it's going to only happen in as few places as possible, right? But here, I personally did the imager and then the dynamics, if that's any useful, if that's any use. Considering that making sharp adjustments on the main volume mixer can be jarring, don't make sharp adjustments. Like I've done here, even if it's a very sudden adjustment, do it as like a curve. So don't just do this, right? That is going to be very noticeable. This is going to be a little bit more lenient, and you're not going to notice as much. So yeah. I wonder how bad it actually is for speakers overdriving on true peak like 0.2 dB. It does sound a little bit dirtier. Like it's not a huge deal, but like as you increase the volume, so for example on a live stage setting, you're not gonna get the same clean sound because there's like so much wattage that the issue just gets very amplified, right? By the way, I want to thank you, Paul, for this mastering patch. Just did a song trying to use your tricks as clean as possible. Thank you, man. Sounds incredibly good and full. Yay! Good to know that I'm actually contributing to society. All right, guys. I think that is going to be it for tonight's breakdown of Timeless Over Me Too. It's out now on Rushdown 100 featuring Jason Skyrose's amazing vocals. Thank you to him. Shout out to Rushdown for making this happen. Rushdown 100. And yeah,